Vin and Mike, episode 52.
What's up? What's up? Happy Wednesday.
All right, what's going on?
I'm still playing the music.
I know, you're really like digging deep into it tonight.
Hello, Vinny. What's up, bud?
Oh, sorry.
You are in the groove, too.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, buddy.
A lot of fun in the NFL this week, huh? We're gonna dig into all of it. Me and Mike were talking before the show, like we usually do, and we run down our topics that we want to talk about, and we realized everything we want to talk about is really NFL because it's just a crazy season. There's so much to talk about. Mike's so excited about his Jets, so
that's why.
There's so much going on, and we had a lot of upsets this week, and just crazy. I mean, I know there's some baseball news slowly trickling in, but we'll get that to it at another time. But let me go through some of our beginning stuff here. Vin and Mike is brought to you by Viggy Bets. You can reach out to @ViggyBets on Twitter, Instagram right now, and get one of his VIP packages at a discount when you mention that you're a Vin and Mike listener. He's doing college football, he's doing hockey, he's doing college basketball, he's doing over-unders, ups and downs, all that fun stuff. And, of course, we are on the Pigskin Podcast Network. We're at KKFI in Kansas City. And, of course, everything's on our website, vinandmikepodcast.com. So,
yes,
Mike,
yes,
where do we want to start? Do we rumble in MetLife Stadium and talk a little bit about the Giants this week?
Let's give the Giants some respect. This team came off a horrific game against Seattle, and they had to do what they needed to against Houston. They came in, they won the game. It wasn't the prettiest of games, but I have to say that the offense was there. I think they had modest 367 yards, 24-point scoring. Jones and Saquon worked really well together. But aside from that, they had that 54-yard score from Darius Slayton, which was awesome. You have to watch that play if you haven't. But other than that, they had 150 yards on their other plays. And I think Kenny Golladay, he just returned from injury, and he dropped some key passes. So that has to be looked at. Their defense always gets the job done. They started, I think, three and outs to start the game, three and outs to start the game, which was great. But something the Giants, I think, really have to improve on is their special teams. I don't know if you saw the punter, but there were some really awful punts there that were not favorable to the Giants. But this is a team that I kind of compare them to the Vikings in a way, and we'll get to that game later, but they just find a way to win. And I think their margin of winning has been the lowest in the NFL, but they know how to get the job done. Dable's a great coach. We saw it all the way back in week 1 when he went for that 2-point conversion, which we won't forget. And since that first game, I think that was just awesome momentum, which has helped this team. And we've seen drastic improvements, but it'll be very interesting when they have these divisional matchups coming up against the Cowboys, Eagles, Commanders. We'll see how that goes because these divisional games are going to be crucial in the home stretch.
Yeah, I mean, they're 7-2, right? I mean, that's really what you look at. They're in a position now, a game out of first place with the Eagles lost last night, and they have 2 games left with the Eagles. They have, like you said, a game with the Cowboys. They have 2 games actually with the Commanders. So they have 5 divisional games left. I know they play the Vikings, the Lions are on their schedule. I think that's all their games that they have left. I think it's all NFC. Let me just look here real quick. Oh, the Colts. They have the Colts.
Yeah.
So if they can, split some of those division games, get that Colts game, get that Lions game, this team could have 10, 11 wins, just like we projected the Jets to do a couple of weeks ago. And I will tell you, Barkley has been
phenomenal.
Big difference. I know we talked to Jeff in our first episode ever, and it was one of the topics we talked about. Should the Giants trade Saquon Barkley. They even hired Dable at the time. Like there was none of that went on, back when we had our first episode. And Jeff said everything for him was on the table at that time. And I think when it comes down to it, I think they just made the right move and not moving on from him, keeping him there. If anyone is a candidate for MVP, we always talk about these quarterbacks. You got to throw Barkley in there as well. I think he's going to have some of those votes. He's probably, you're not going to see running backs win it anymore. You're not going to see it's a quarterback award, but you got to have him in consideration. I think he's been fantastic. Like you said, Dable's been great. Daniel Jones has managed the process, which is all you ask for, not to make a lot of big mistakes. I like their defense, like you said. They've been playing well. They got to clean up special teams. I think a bunch of teams that's really a big thorn in the side of a bunch of teams. You see bad punts, guys fumbling returns, just bad play. So I think you got to clean that up as a whole in the NFL. But ultimately, this Giants team, they're in it. They're I think they're going to play a really good game this week with the Lions. And I would expect them to be there the rest of the season. I think it's real exciting around here in New York. I can tell. It's just everybody's pumping and excited.
No, it is. I think the one thing that the Giants really have to improve upon is their rush defense. I think that's been a weakness all season. Playing this Detroit Lions team who have rushed the ball pretty well in their offense, so that's something that has to be worked on. But like you said, Vinny, they're 7-2. There's really little to complain about, just things like any team that you have to improve on, as I say about the Jets, about Zach Wilson getting better every week. But their defense has been there, and they just have to work on the special team, the punting, and the punt returns, because come playoff time, that's going to be extremely crucial. You have to have everything in line.
Yeah, and I think it's important that somehow they get Galladay involved in this offense. I don't know how. He's just been horrific ever since they signed him last season. Injury prone, not getting open, no touchdowns, the whole thing. It's just a mess. But Slayton's been good.
Yes.
And like I said, I think Barkley consideration for MVP. Real exciting. I'm excited to see how they do this week coming up and seeing how that NFC East is playing out, where all those teams are now gathered around each other. I thought the Cowboys were going to be in big trouble after their loss, that the Eagles could potentially be 9-0, 3-game lead with 8 games left, and two games there, all that stuff. But it's now just a 2-game lead, and it's a lot of important things. And Washington's making noise. They've been playing really well the last 4 weeks, and we'll get into that a little bit later on into the show. But we're going to flip the switch here, and we're going to go to my little Vegas team out there. And like I said, I was going to send an army out to Vegas if we lost to the Colts. And
you may have to make a trip there yourself.
Vin's army is now outside of Allegiant Stadium. They're sitting there and they're protesting as we speak. All 242 of them, of my army, are there.
Of your army.
I'm waiting for some live updates from them, and I'll let you all know how that's going. But in all seriousness, this is a team that is lost its way. I don't know if it's the coach. I don't know if it's the quarterback. I don't know if it's the owner. I don't know if it's all the above. But at 2-8 and pathetic losses that we've seen, and it was not any worse than losing to this Colts team with Jeff Saturday, who coached 14-year-old kids in his last coaching job, who was an ESPN analyst, and comes in there and figures out a way to beat this Raiders team. And it's just poor defense. They couldn't stop Jonathan Taylor. Matt Ryan returns and didn't have a phenomenal game, but did enough to do what he had to do. They just can't produce enough offense. They get the ball to Adams. It seems like they're going to get him like 30 catches, and then all of a sudden he falls off. And then in situations, Carr underthrows guys. He's just not living up to expectations. His team is not living up to expectations. I just don't know. I don't want to even scream because I don't even know what I'm going to scream about. There's so much that I might be here for 20 minutes just screaming, and I don't want to. Chandler Jones, big free agent signing, he's done nothing. I mean, he's a waste of time. He's a waste of time. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to even have him on the field. You know, it's like things like that just drive you insane. That nothing is there. So I'm not sure where to even begin. You know, I don't know if it's Josh McDaniels' fault. Everyone's like, "Oh, he wasn't a good head coach in Denver." He had Tim Tebow as his quarterback. I mean, you know, he hasn't had a quarterback that shows anything. You know, Carr has not won a playoff game. I keep telling people this. Not only have they, you know, barely touched the playoffs, when they do, they have not won. He hasn't won anything. I know he was hurt a few years back, you know, all this other stuff. But again, there's no winning. There's nothing there that makes you think that anything is going to get better. It's just, I don't know. At this point, CJ Stroud could come in there and they could bring Sean Payton in there and let's start fresh with those two guys. I mean, that's the way I'm almost thinking about it.
What do you think about the Josh Jacobs productivity and where he's
he's been good, but again, he's on a contract year. You know, they didn't pick up his fifth year option, so he's running for his life as far as his NFL career, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But that's okay. That's the way you're supposed to play when things are not. He stayed healthy this year, which has always been something you worried about him every season as a Raiders fan.
Right.
He's been productive, but you know, Waller constantly hurt, waste of time. Renfro has been hurt this whole year. You know, we have Mac Hollins as our number 2 receiver now. I don't even know if he's a number 4 receiver on most teams. They don't, you know, they basically have Adams and Jacobs, and there's nothing around them. The defense, Max Crosby, and nothing around them. The secondary is not improved. This team is afraid to tackle people. I mean, I'm watching guys at the end of that game afraid to tackle guys. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know what was going on, you know. And then Carr on the 4th down play doesn't even give Adams a chance to make the catch. Throw the ball to the guy. Don't throw it 10 yards over his head. Throw it to him. Have him make a play. You know, pass interference is very possible. You know, it's just unbelievable. The whole game is unbelievable. And this is a team at home to a Colts team that had a play call. Someone call them play. I don't know who called plays for them. They lost all their play callers. They didn't have anyone. Again, Jeff Saturday is the coach. What the hell?
Right. That's just
pathetic, man. I just can't. I just can't anymore.
Now you know what's incredible to me.
They ruined my Thanksgiving. Oh, wait, we didn't
all right, go throw a turkey at the TV. All right, listen.
Maybe.
All right.
The Lions are playing the Bills at 1:00. We'll see how that works.
What's amazing to me is on October 10th, they lost by only 1 point against Kansas City.
Right. But again, they won 17-0 in that game.
Right.
20-10 at halftime.
They've been so inconsistent. The coaching's been awful. And as you said, Vinny, you gave me a stat or something, then giving up 17-point leads or something. It's only happened 5 times since 19 whatever.
So the stat is
it's incredible.
Since their inception, which was 1960 to last year, 2021, they only had 5 times in their history that they had 17-plus point leads and lost the game. This year, they did it 3 times already. So, you know, it's a team that just can't finish. Carr said it, I think it was week 1, week 2. You know, we have to learn how to win. And they still haven't learned to win. And I'll be honest, he's up there crying and feeling like the locker room is like not everyone's living up to expectations and all this stuff. Honestly, he's a nice guy. I think he's good for the league. You know, you never hear anything bad about him. But as far as a player, I'm done with him. I don't need him up there crying. I just don't. I don't need it. He can go cry in Houston. You know, I mean, I just don't need him. You know, I need production at this point. You know, Raider fans are tired of this. This is This is, Bisaccia takes us to the playoffs, and you feel a lot of good hope. You get Adams, and you add pieces to a playoff team, and you're 2-8. I mean, it's horrific. It's just terrible football across the board. It takes the life out of you. You sit here in the middle of November, and Sunday football comes on, and you only care about your fantasy football teams and your DraftKings wagers, because you don't care if your team wins or loses at this point. Because even if they win 6 in a row, they're still 8-8 and probably not going to make the playoffs. That's how insane it is, right? You can win 6 games in a row, and you can win probably all 7 and go 9-8 and probably not make the playoffs.
Well, that's why. That is why in baseball, a lot different. You could go on huge losing streaks because there's 162 games. Every game is so crucial in the NFL, especially at the beginning, because it's hard to get out. It's hard to get out of a hole like that.
It is a wild NFL, right? I mean, it is wild, and it just is. But I'm not going to go on with the Raiders anymore. We're gonna move on, right? Can we move on?
Yeah, we can move on.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about last night's game. I thought that was a real interesting Monday Night Football game. Jalen Hurts and his Eagles. I thought he was the favorite for the MVP. Still might be coming in there. 11-point favorite, I think it was, Mike. We saw
11 points, and we put it on our Instagram. We're just.
I think we both didn't think they would cover, but we didn't expect them to lose.
Did not.
They had 4 turnovers last night. They only had 3 going into that game. So they more than doubled their turnover ratio in one game. Terrible fumbles in certain situations. I know the Dallas Goedert play was controversial. The good interception there on Washington basically took that ball from A.J. Brown. Then Quez Watkins tried to do too much, and he fumbled. And then the last fumble was them flea flicking, at the end of the game, and just basically threw the ball to Washington. But the big thing for me was Washington ran the ball on them a lot, and ball control and held the ball. And, Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson Jr. are nice running backs, but they're not Jonathan Taylor. They're not Derrick Henry. They're not Saquon Barkley. Those are the guys that are coming up for Philadelphia next. Those are the guys that they're going to have to stop. And they're going to need to figure it out real fast, especially next week against, again, a Colts team that has Jeff Saturday as a head coach. And really, you think about that team, and they're not playing overly great. And they're going to have to figure out a way to stop Jonathan Taylor and not have that time of possession be insanely one way. And they're going to need to figure out how not to fumble the ball left and right and 3 and outs and real bad play. It was just a really bad game, the way the Eagles played. I give them credit for staying in that game. I thought the defense played much better in the second half compared to the first half, but the offense flip-flopped, where the offense played well in the first half and did in the second half. So it was just a bad game. Give Washington credit. I know you want to talk a little bit about Taylor Heineke. I will let you speak about what you thought about last night.
Yeah, I mean, he's been great. I mean, he's kept his team in sync. He didn't have a passing touchdown, but was able to utilize the running game and Brian Robinson Jr. and Antonio Gibson, and he just kept his team on target. He made some good passes, a couple mistakes, obviously, but I mean, Washington, Vinny. I mean, you tell me if you did. They pretty much controlled the game from really the late first quarter till the end of the game. Eagles started out well, and then Washington just by the second quarter they scored 13 points. It was 20-14 at halftime, and they just took over. So I know a lot of people, the controversial play at the end with Brandon Graham with that rushing the passer, but even so, the Eagles would have had an opportunity to win the game, but they just played so poorly that it didn't matter. The Eagles did not deserve to win that game yesterday. Washington won that game.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
When you're a 8-0 team, undefeated, and you play like that, you're not going to win the game. The other thing I'll say for Eagles fans out there is that there was so much pressure on them to stay undefeated. It's a very thing that every week your team's being discussed about, will they have the perfect season? And it puts a lot of extra pressure on players. But the key is going into next game, you get back into how Philadelphia's played the first 8 games. You get back to that, you get right back on track. Sometimes when this happens, teams tend to go in a little slump, and hopefully that won't happen for them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a couple of big stats. I'm just looking at right now: 12 for 21 on third downs for Washington. So that was where Heineke was efficient, and 81 total plays to 47. So ball control was 40 minutes to 20 minutes.
Right.
I mean, 2-to-1 in ball control, almost 2-to-1 in plays, and the third down efficiency. So those are the things as a Philadelphia Eagles player and coach you look at and say that's where we have to improve. I'll give credit to Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, both who in post-game said, that Brandon Graham play wasn't the reason we lost.
No.
We did not play well. We did not execute when we had our opportunities and all that stuff. But let's talk a little bit about these refs and instant replay, right? The Dallas Goedert fumble and subsequent injuring his shoulder where he's out for a while now, just reading, that was a massive face mask. It goes to instant replay because of the fumble, right, where all turnovers are automatically reviewed. I think it's the NBA when they challenge you, you can look at everything that happened on the play at that point, right? Like you challenge whatever you challenge, but you can look at if it's a travel, if it's a charge, if it's you look at everything. I think why not NFL look at everything on a challenge? You challenge a catch. Well, let's see if there was a penalty involved in it, a clear-cut penalty. That was a clear-cut face mask, pulling him down. Should have been a 15-yard penalty. You know what the funny thing is? They show the angle of where he's getting face mask, looking at him, and you can see the ref's head from where the camera is looking into the play. I'm like, well, what's this ref looking at? Like what are you looking at? Like the camera's over your head as you're pulling this guy's head off. So they're again, I think this year what we've seen is a lot of these penalties, roughing the passers, late hits, all this stuff that aren't real penalties. I know you think the Brandon Graham play wasn't even a penalty, which by rule it's a penalty, right? That's the rule. Was there intention on Brandon Graham's rush? I think if anything, Reddick pulling him down was more of the penalty than Graham running into him, right? I mean, and Reddick really basically let him go. They didn't really whop him. To me, the intention wasn't there to hit him and to hurt him. They were going through the process of the play, and he takes a knee as they're going through it, and you could see Graham slid and Reddick let go. You can see all that, but again, the letter of the law right now is that's a penalty, and I think they need to review this next year.
Yeah, because there's been so many cases where, they're big penalties. They're 15-yard penalties that in a lot of cases change the momentum of a game. But we talked about the reason why I keep mentioning it is because when you have someone who's 300 pounds coming at you at full speed and they try to stop themselves, but they bump into you a little bit, or it's the momentum, and it's just been called so many times. Now, some are blatant, and I agree with them, but some of them are absolutely ridiculous. We saw it with Tom Brady a few weeks back, how he got the call. It was just crazy. So it does have to be reviewed because it's getting out of control.
Yeah, it's just too much. It's just too crazy. So while we're on this game, before we do commercial, I just want to, we discussed it right before we came alive where Ron Rivera said he's not sure if a healthy Carson Wentz will play quarterback when he's ready to come back. How do you even think about bringing Carson Wentz back? I mean, you could see that the team rallies around this Heineke. You can see it. I think you saw it last year too. They rally around this guy. They like this guy. He plays with a lot of fire. He's very emotional. He makes plays. He's keeping them in games. It's all those little intangibles that he has that I just think Carson Wentz doesn't have at this point. And they're winning games with him. I can't even. Why you would even? I don't know if you're trying to not insult Wentz, which Rivera already did once, as we know. When they asked him why Washington wasn't as good as the other three teams, and he basically said the quarterback, and then he had to apologize to everyone. But he was right. They were not good until Heineke is taken over. Until Wentz had the surgery on his finger, they were not a good team.
No, I just wanted to add to that. I mean, it's a very simple fact. You're winning. Not only are you winning, you beat the undefeated team in the NFL. So why would you start changing things around? It makes no sense. Keep the momentum and keep someone who the team's really unifying. And if things start to change, you bring back Wentz. But right now, you have a winning quarterback. You have a team that lines up with him and that are aligned with him, and they're playing so well. Don't ruin that chemistry.
Yeah, I just can't. I don't see it happening. I think he's just being politically correct here, but I just can't see it happening. But let's take a little break here and get to our commercial. So let's think about a scenario, Mike. Let's think. I'll try to think one. Let's see. All right, Derek Carr is on the 20-yard line. He drops back on 4th down. He throws deep left to the end zone and throws it into the first row over Adams' head. Oh, the excitement of the other team. You can name any one of the other 31 teams, and they're very excited about what just happened here. The chances of regaining possession are always slim, and they're even now slimmer because Derek Carr threw it into the first row. But make every play feel this exciting with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and their unbeatable offers. Right now, new customers can make any $5 NFL bet and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Check this out. In addition to the usual bets, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. So we were 3-3. If anyone listened to our pick show, I was 1-2 with my picks. Mike was 2-1. So there was all kinds of messes there. We're going to go into that Bills-Minnesota game and the fiasco that arose with our good friend Anthony, who took the money line with the Vikings. We'll laugh about that one in a second. But to make things even sweeter, you can throw down on stepped-up same-game parlays once per game all season long. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code TPPN to get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Just place a $5 bet on any football game only at DraftKings Sportsbook using code TPPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. So we did talk about this Bills-Vikings game. So for our audience that's been listening, our loyal listeners, know that we always like to talk about our good buddy there, Anthony's bets, because he loves to text us all his stuff, and he's just a fun guy and good person. But he took the Vikings money line way before the game because he thought Josh Allen would not play and felt that he was going to get odds and all that stuff, which he did, right? So you got everything.
Uh-huh.
So here was the 4th down play. If everyone didn't see the game or did, Cousins is on the goal line, tries to sneak in with, what was it, about 40 seconds left? I don't even know what the time was.
And I got to tell you, I thought he got in. But
he doesn't, right? So now the game's essentially over. So I basically text Bills win. And he's all pissed off. Can't believe they didn't give the ball to Dalvin Cook. He just kept yelling, feed Cook, which I think also probably had something to do with his fantasy team probably as well. But besides that, all this was playing out. And, right. So the next play is when Josh Allen fumbles the snap. Minnesota recovers. And how Anthony texts, Vikings win. Next thing you know, Josh Allen comes down and ties the game on that field goal. He goes, I don't know if it was a bigger mush, myself or Vin at this point, right? I mean, it was probably the most insane
2 minutes
game, like ever. Right? But
that's the game in general.
Yeah, the Vikings won. Right? They kicked the field goal. Allen threw the pick at the end. So he ends up hitting his money line bet. Good for him, the whole thing. But this is a Bills team, and this is where I want to start going. This is a Bills team that now lost 2 in a row, 2 tough games. They did lose, to be fair, to a 6-3 Jets team and an 8-1 Vikings team. 2 really good teams, when you look at it on paper. But this is a team that was ranked number 1 in a lot of plays 2 weeks ago, looked like Super Bowl favorite, and you wake up this morning, they're the 6th seed in the AFC right now. That means they're a wild card team on the road, staying on the road probably for the entire playoffs, where we've seen now they lost 2 of their 3 games on the road to the Dolphins and the Jets, played poorly on the road to the Ravens, and now have lost to a Vikings team where, you worry about Josh Allen's elbow. He hasn't played well with this elbow problem. He hasn't played well in a few weeks. He's starting to regress a little bit. A lot of people think maybe Brian Dable not being there to, bring him back to earth is maybe something that's going on there as well. I don't know if it's that. But I think there's some worries, right? I think if you're going to worry about any team that is a really good team, that you want to see take a step forward, it's going to be this Bills team. And I think they're going to need to really show what they're made of. I know, Mike, you're a big AFC East guy. Some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you could see he hasn't been himself the last 3 games. You saw the interceptions. You saw in previous games he had control. And this was a Bills team that, including myself in the early weeks, had them as Super Bowl contenders. But they're vulnerable now. You see it. And there's just it was Josh Allen leading this team, but also pivotal mistakes. And the AFC East right now is so tight because, Vinny, you said the Bills are now a 6th seed. That's crazy. Who would have thought that at the beginning of the season? And as I told you before the show, if the New York Jets win against the Pats and Kansas City and the Titans lose, the Jets are in first place in the AFC. But it's like a game difference. But then you take the Patriots, who are 5-4. They win this game, right? They become 6-4. The Jets are 6-4, but the Patriots have the tiebreaker over the Jets because that's why every game is so crucial, especially these divisional games, right? So do I think the Bills bounce back? I think they do. I think they're in a slump. I think part of it is his shoulder, obviously, but there's just something not right now with the Bills, and they're extremely vulnerable, and they got to get back on track.
Yeah, I think that's interesting when you said the Jets lose, they're 6-4. The scary thing is if the Bills win, the Jets are then 4th in the division. Like that.
That's what I'm saying.
Crazy.
So the AFC East is insane right now. Every team is over 500, and every team is aside from, I think, right, the Bills I feel are a little decreased, but the Patriots keep getting better. The Jets keep getting better, and Miami's been fantastic with Tua and that Miami offense, and they're so well coached. It's scary. It's and I said this, Vinny, that just to sidetrack a little bit, as big as a win, the Jets beating the Bills, which was a huge win for momentum and just confidence. This game against New England coming up is the biggest game of the season because it affects tiebreakers. It affects, of course, momentum, and a team that beat you at home a couple weeks ago really coming back and saying we can play these guys and we can win. So we shall see.
Yeah, very, very interesting, this AFC East. The NFC East is interesting. I think Dallas has got, another team that came off a very bad loss.
Oh, that was awful.
In Green Bay. And we talked about it. We weren't sure with that spread if it was a game we didn't want to touch. And I'm glad we didn't think about going down the Dallas path at all. Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers bouncing back really nice, hitting the young kid Watson, 3 touchdowns. All that stuff that Aaron Rodgers can do, saying we're still here, a lot of confidence, all that. But Dallas now has to go to Minnesota, after this loss to the Packers. So they're basically back on the road, and for some odd reason, the 8-1 Vikings, who just went to Buffalo and won, are now home, taking on a Cowboys team who just lost to Green Bay, going into Minnesota, and they're +1.
I don't understand that at all.
Our favorite. I can't figure that one out at all. There's some weird spreads we've seen. We thought the Giants, only being a 5-point favorite was too small, and we were right there. But I can't even fathom how the Cowboys are favorite, at all. I can't see that staying that way. I would expect all the money to go on Minnesota, unless there's something we're missing here.
Something that we're missing, like an injury, but I haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard anything about Cousins or Cook or Jefferson.
Speaking of which, let's talk about that catch.
Oh, let me tell you, Justin Jefferson.
Oh.
I always think about this every time I see him make a play, every time I see Jamar Chase make a play. And that LSU team, you could put that team together now in the NFL, and they're going to win games because you had Joe Burrow, Jefferson, and Chase. I mean, wonder why nobody could beat that team. Wonder why Burrow threw 100 touchdowns that year, or whatever that crazy number was. But he's unbelievable, this Justin Jefferson, because we know what Kirk Cousins is. We know what he is.
Right.
But he makes Kirk Cousins look like Joe Montana. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, he's probably the best receiver in football right now because of the Cup injury and because Adams is getting the ball thrown into the first row. I think he is the guy. He is the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he is. And Anthony just asked the question. Here's our buddy. He just said, is he the best wide receiver in the league if everyone is healthy, Cup and Chase? I still think Cup is the best if Cup is healthy. But I think right now Jefferson is. But how is Dallas favored in that game?
I really don't know.
The second thing is, I can't see. Let's just straight up. I can't see Dallas going to Minnesota at this point and winning. Dak still to me has not shown that next level. I think Minnesota's always a tough team at home. I think sometimes they don't translate well on the road, but I think at home they're a different animal. I just can't. This is probably one of those games for the Cowboys that could start really, getting them on the wrong path, right? Because San Francisco, you could see, is a lot better now with McCaffrey. You don't know where the Packers are going to come into this. Washington is a lot better. All of a sudden, that extra wild card spot, you start thinking, well, where's it going to fall? That, I tell you, Thanksgiving for everybody. You're going to be sitting there at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time.
It's going to be great.
everybody's probably halfway into their meals, already ate, because you like to eat Thanksgiving dinner at like 2:00.
I just want to make a funny comment.
Yeah.
No wonder my dad, he's like, we're doing Thanksgiving at 2:00.
Yeah, of course.
Because
Everyone does.
I thought it was a little early.
No. You do it for two reasons.
I said, but
you want to watch football, and then after the game's over, you want to have the leftovers because you're hungry again.
That's right. It's my favorite meal by far, favorite holiday.
But I tell you,
yeah,
we'll see how it plays out this week. But either way, wins, losses, wins. Giants, Cowboys, 4:30 Thanksgiving, 4:30 Eastern time. I got to make sure because I know we have our loyal listeners out there in the West. 4:30 Eastern time. It's going to be an unbelievable game. I know New York's going to be all pumped up here. Dallas, America's team. The ratings are probably going to be phenomenal. They'd probably be good if both teams were bad. Now they're going to be at a whole different level.
Must see.
Yeah, that's great. But when you think about this Dallas team, and you watched it, and our Packer guys, definitely watched it. Our friends there, that I can't believe how they fell off there at the end, and I just don't think Dak again. You just worry about, is he going to be that guy to take you over the hump?
Yeah, I mean, he had the 2 interceptions. But also, Vinny, we talked about I thought it was terrible coaching at the end there with a 4th and 4, and you don't take the points to take the lead. That's on Mike McCarthy. And I'm not saying Dallas played great by any means, but that was your chance to go ahead. And then you decide to go for it because of the, quote, field position. But you only would have been, if you do miss it, you only lose about 7 to 10 yards, right? And you hope your defense just pulls through. I thought that was a terrible call. And that kind of situation, you get the points and you take the lead. And it's not that you had a bad field goal kicker either.
No.
So that's the other thing. I can understand if your field goal kicker was hurt or someone who hasn't been accurate, but that's not the case. So it was not a good day for the Cowboys, and they had a lead and they just let it. They had a 14-point lead at one point, and then the Packers just came out of nowhere.
They had a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, which the stat came up on the TV that in 14-point leads for Dallas in their history in the fourth quarter, they were 195-0. So they're 195-1 now.
Yeah, look at that.
You're right. That overtime 4th and 4 field goal attempt that they didn't even try.
Right.
You got to try it, right?
You have to.
The kicker is good. I get it. It's 26 degrees in Green Bay and all that, but I think McCarthy just, I don't know, all his play calling through the years, sometimes it gets suspect and going for plays and all that. And then Matt LaFleur, I'll be honest, on the other side, I think he just plays too conservative sometimes down the stretch here. Run. I get it. You got Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, but you got Aaron Rodgers, man, and the game is tied, and he's just thrown 3 touchdowns in the game. Put the ball in his hand. You're paying him $40 million for a reason. Put the ball in his hand and go. You gotta give your Hall of Fame quarterback the opportunity to win games there. So I think it's a lot to it.
It will be interesting on Thursday night because the Packers play the Titans.
Yeah,
how they, after this good win for them, and finally Rodgers connecting with his receivers, how this really goes into this Thursday night game in Green Bay.
Yeah, and Tennessee, I think one of the areas they're not great at on defense is pass coverage.
Pass coverage, yeah.
So I'd be interesting to see if they try to take advantage of that and see how it moves forward. And then I want to see how Green Bay responds on the defensive side to stop Derrick Henry, because we know if Derrick Henry starts getting going and moves ahead, it could be a 200-yard night on the other side of the field. So it's an interesting matchup, especially on a short short rest.
Week.
Yeah, I mean, if you're missing some of your key players against this kind of matchup, it could definitely cost you on one side or the other. So it'll be a good game. At least finally we're going to get a nice
Thursday night game finally, right?
I looked at the schedule, the Amazon schedule there. It's starting to look a little bit better as we start heading down the stretch. I mean, some of those games, oh my God. I mean, I'm surprised I was awake. I think the only reason I stayed awake is because I wanted to watch like Game of Thrones or something afterwards.
Yeah.
Some kind of Netflix show that I just wanted to pop on at 12 o'clock at night when everybody's sleeping. So, but I want to jump real quick now and talk about Tom Brady. And I again, there's a quote I like to use, and I use it quite often, and because everyone asks me about stuff, and I went against my own quote, and I'm here to apologize to everybody that I've used this quote to and didn't think about it myself. I always say, never doubt greatness, and I went into that Sunday morning game thinking, is Tampa really rebounded? What are they going to show? Neutral field in Germany. Is Brady coming back? What's he got? Blah, blah, blah. And I doubted greatness, and it cost me an early parlay, which, ended up, just rolling over anyway, but that's besides the point. I doubted greatness, and I apologize because Brady came out there and showed, why he's the all-time greatest quarterback in the history of football, why nobody will ever match what he's ever done and all that other stuff. And Geno Smith regressed a little bit in that first half. He was much better in the second half, but that first half, he was the old Geno Smith there for a little bit.
Was.
But I give Seattle credit. They came back. They looked like they were going to get blown out of the building. It was 21-3, I think, at one point. I thought the game was going to end up 35-3. They showed a little bit of guts and made it a little interesting down the stretch, but it was just Brady and his merry men, as I always say. Julio Jones, another guy, and all the guys around them. So I apologize to everybody. I broke the rule, and I'll hand it over to you, Mike. A little bit about.
I was when you picked that game, I was a little nervous because the way Tampa won last game on that last drive, and I said, if any quarterback is going to gain momentum from that and do something about it, it's Tom Brady. I did understand your Seattle pick, and I wanted to back it. Obviously, the way Geno Smith and the way Pete Carroll's been coaching, they've been phenomenal. But this was in Germany, and Tom Brady just knows how to. He has such a following. I'm sure he wanted to have a big game in Germany, but for the first time, you saw him connect with those receivers, the Godwins, Mike Evans, Julio Jones, and then on the running game for Fournette and White. I mean, it was an overall best game that Tampa's played, I think, all year. Putting points on the board. Now, remember that it was a scoreless first quarter, and then Tampa Bay scored 14 in the second. They had a nice lead at halftime, and Seattle made it somewhat of a game in the fourth quarter. But this was a good game for Tampa. Even before this game, they were in first place, as mediocre as they played, and now they have a little wiggle room in that awful NFC South. But this is where Brady strides, and you're right, Vinny. Never doubt greatness, and that's who Tom Brady is.
And this is where Giant fans are going to get a little nervous, and I'll tell you why. Because Tampa's going to win that division, and they're not going to win it with a great record because of where they are. So they'll most likely be the 4 seed, and the number 1 wild card team, who right now is the Giants, are going to have to travel to Tampa and potentially be the wild card matchup in that game. And Giant fans, I know where it's very early and a lot can change, but I know they don't want to go to Tampa and play Tom Brady in that kind of game.
Nobody does.
They're gonna look. They got to find every way possible to try to beat that Eagles team and win that division, and try to avoid that insanity of going down to Tampa. And this guy, it's just amazing because you talk to people and they ask you, do you think we'll see somebody like Tom Brady again? And I said, let's think about it. Let's not even think about Super Bowl wins. Let's not even think about that. Let's think about 10 Super Bowls that you've participated in. There's guys that can't even get to a Super Bowl that are phenomenal quarterbacks. Take Aaron Rodgers. He's been in the league 15, 16 years, starter, 13, whatever it is. He's been to one and won it. But that's all he's been to is one Super Bowl. Won it, but he's only been to one. Drew Brees, right? One Super Bowl, won it, but that's it. Like, never getting back. Dan Marino got to one, lost, never got back. Some of the greatest quarterbacks. Peyton Manning, great quarterback. One of the best ever. Some people say maybe the best regular season quarterback ever. Was to 4, 2-2. But only 4. This guy's been to 10. Okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, where are you going to find the 199th pick in the draft to get you to one Super Bowl? Might as well 10. So it's just a whole different level of play. He plays like, the number one overall. He plays like a video game pick, right? Like, it's like you play this video game, whatever, Madden, whatever game where they have a college draft. And you draft the number one overall quarterback in the game, and you build him up and you win all these Super Bowls with him. That's how he plays as the 199th pick in the draft at 45 years old. Right? I'm watching Penn State, Ohio State a few weeks back, and there's LeVar Arrington, who was a really great Penn State player, was second overall pick in the draft, and all this stuff. This guy was drafted the same year as Brady, and he's there getting his college jersey retired. He looked like he weighed 300 pounds. He looked like he's 80 years old. And I'm going, this guy was drafted the same draft as Tom Brady. That's just freaking nuts.
And he's 45. Now, I was laughing on the side because I thought of something random. Back when Vinny and I were working together, we had this inside joke, him and I, that he was playing in the XFL. and basically, like, he was one of the, what do you call him? Like, just one of the walk-on players, right?
Right.
So our friends, including, people that were not, like adults with kids, like, he believed it. Like, they actually believed it. And then one of the guys, who was like one of the youngest guys, we told him, and he started like laughing like I've never heard before. He goes, yeah, isn't like Vinny like 45 or something? Like, how the hell's he in the XFL? So many people believed it. It was great. I'll never forget that. Oh man,
a lot of fun times, man. Good stuff. By the way, Heineke was a backup in the XFL. He wasn't even a starter. And this guy, what a story that is.
Yeah, I want to ask you something relating to the Colts coach, because there was something that was said. I want to get your opinion. Coach Cowher, because I was watching Carton earlier, said something to the extent of it was a disgrace hiring someone like this who didn't have any kind of professional or college experience to the game of football when there's so many people waiting for that kind of opportunity. And then Craig Carton turns around, well, you know what, Bill Cowher, you had the opportunity to go into broadcasting without any kind of experience. So I want to get your thoughts on that as far as hiring this guy as a coach and what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I thought it, first of all, I thought it was insane to just hire a guy out of the ESPN booth with no real coaching experience, right? But I don't say it's a disgrace for the NFL. Give the guy an opportunity, right? if it fails, you move on. I mean, we've seen plenty of times guys given opportunities and things and have succeeded or they failed. At least give them the opportunity. For me, I thought it was them trying to tank the season, just bring a guy in that he trusts, that's gonna, just do the right thing for the organization and not make things get too crazy out of hand. But at the end of the day, we're gonna lose a lot of games and Jeff will end up going back into broadcasting once this is all over. But at the same time, he comes out and wins. Philadelphia is next. We'll see what happens. And Carton is right? I mean, a lot of these guys that play in the NFL that aren't communication majors, not broadcasters, not doing anything, are given these multi-million-dollar jobs, and some of them are great at it, like Tony Romo and Greg Olson and guys like that. And some of them are really bad at it. We've heard some of those guys as well. But, at the end of the day, it's everyone's opportunity, right? It doesn't matter where you start as. It's where you go and how you succeed at it. If they think you're going to have a potential opportunity here and could be good at it, why not give them a chance?
Right.
He understands football. We understand what we're doing, right? Or it's all about giving people opportunities. Yeah. Again, Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. He was 4th on the depth chart in his rookie year. Someone gave him a chance. Bill Belichick gave him a chance, right? He thought, you hear the story. He thought he would sign a rookie contract where he would make enough money to start his own financial investment firm, right? Yeah. He was going to get his Series 7 and become a financial consultant for himself and as a the Michigan quarterback and former NFL player. People gravitate towards that stuff, and that was his ultimate plan. That was his plan as a 6th-round pick.
Right.
But he was given a chance, and look what's happened. So I think it's all about. I don't think it's where you started. I think it's where you go and how you finish. It's important. So yeah, I agree with Carton. Someone gave you a chance. I think
you would take it. I would take it. Come on.
Hey, listen, I'm very bad right now at coaching my fantasy football team. This is probably one of my worst years in the history of fantasy sports.
Anthony's smiling right now.
Yes, he beat me again. So it's literally like horrific. I have one good team, but usually I'm competitive in like all my
in all your leagues. I remember that.
I'm not even competitive in two of my 3 leagues. So it's just like, holy cow. And a lot of that has to do with the way the game has changed too.
Right.
And I will admit to this also. Where the game has changed is it's very big quarterback receiver league. And running backs are not what they used to be. And that is where you see the issue when it even comes to fantasy drafting, which is interesting, that if you drafted running backs in certain spots and didn't draft receivers or didn't draft quarterbacks, you're a little bit behind the 8 ball.
Sure.
So that it's just a whole different way of the league is going, and it's translated to fantasy football, which is kind of interesting in a way.
Yeah.
So, all right. So before we finish here, Jets, Patriots. Let's dig in. We could dig into it a little bit over the hour. No one's gonna care or complain. Let me pull it up here. It is a 1:00 game Eastern time. It is a 3-point favorite New England team. What was the score a couple weeks ago? You remember?
2017 Jets.
2017.
Oh, sorry. You were talking about the Patriots game.
Yeah. What was that one?
22-17 Patriots.
22-17 Patriots.
Yes.
And I think Zach made some mistakes in that game.
Big mistakes.
Was that the game that no, Brees was hurt the week before, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So the first game without Brees.
First game he was out.
So Carter now maybe a little bit better with the offense. James Robinson a little better. Zach learned his lesson a little bit here.
Yes.
Sauce Gardner and that defense gets better every week. So this is what you got to hope for, right? You got to hope that this all turns into something. You get some pressure on Mac Jones. You're able to stop their running game and be able to flip it around 22-17 the other way, right?
And I think they could easily do it, Vin, because the biggest fault of the last game against the Patriots was Zach Wilson. And he admitted there was a lot of mistakes. Him not knowing when to throw the ball away, running back to a different time zone. And against the Bills, you saw the confidence was building. You saw Carter really step into it. You saw Robinson and Carter really get into their game, a beautiful 1-2 punch. And then the receivers, just like anything, every week you have to build chemistry. You already had good chemistry with Garrett Wilson, and now you have to add some other people to this mix. Maybe Braxton Berrios, get Azuma going. He had a couple catches, right? Get your tight ends going. And I really, again, I don't know what's going to happen with this Elijah Moore situation, but as I said in previous shows, you made amends with him. You took the high road. Now you have to utilize him. And if I think they start utilizing him and he's more than capable to be effective, the Jets are just going to keep climbing, right? So the defense is there. It's not the defense has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's the offense. And I say it like a broken record. Don't be afraid to throw it on first down. Get that yardage. It doesn't even matter if you throw it or use your running backs. Get big yardage on first down so you can come up with more the 2 or 3 yards plays instead of like a 3rd and 8 or 9 or 10. You want to be able to do that against this Patriots team. That's what they weren't doing against them. They were stuck in 3rd and long situations. Zach Wilson panicked, right? To build that confidence from the Bills, you had a bye week, so plenty of time to think about that, plenty of weeks, couple weeks, a week to really be coached on those aspects. But it really comes down to Zach Wilson. Defense has been great. Special teams has been good. Now you just have to have a quarterback who exudes confidence, and you got to get this win. This is the biggest game of the year. So we're all looking forward to it. I'll be watching closely. Can't wait.
It's Corey Davis is back this week.
He is.
So,
and also Max Mitchell, who's the offense, who's a tackle. So that's big for them. So they're getting people back.
So that's what I'm saying. You said throwing first down. You got Davis. You got Garrett Wilson. Take advantage. I think Denzel Mims, has been playing well. He's a big guy. I think they like having him out there because he can help in the running game too. I think that's a big thing as well. But I think you're right. Throw the ball. Nice throws for him, right? Easy 5-yard throws just to get them, into the game, get the flow going. Try to make Wilson make plays after the catch or Davis, and try to play that kind of game and hit Mac Jones. Get to that quarterback as much as you can.
I just want to say Corey Davis, just one modification. He is day-to-day still, but Robert Saleh said he's been practicing really hard, and there's a really good chance that he'll be playing. So let's keep our fingers crossed for that.
All right. And breaking news, Terry Francona, AL Manager of the Year. Congratulations to Terry Francona. I really thought Aaron Boone would win it, but I'm shocked that he did.
Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, yeah.
And I expect Buck to win it in the National League when that's announced. I think it's announced today.
When's that announced?
I don't know if it's announced today or tomorrow. I don't know.
Trust me, we'll get a text from Matt as soon as it is. So.
Oh, yeah. I believe we will get it soon.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
We're good, man. Good football show. Our audience, we usually do like to dig into a lot of different sports, but there was just so much going on, this past weekend. So many upsets. The NFL is so exciting right now. We were just so pumped. After Sunday's games and then after last night's game, if you see our text messages, they're just basically with group text that we have with a bunch of people, all kinds of messaging, and it's just unbelievable the NFL. Really excited for it. College football, by the way, is getting exciting. I think we're going to try to get our man Jason Bailey on here.
That's fantastic.
Michigan, Ohio State, both undefeated. Georgia, TCU, all of a sudden. I mean, I don't know. It's just exciting football time of year. It's getting cold here in New York. As you see, me and Mike are bundled up because we're cheap and keep our houses at 65 degrees.
That's right. It's very cold here.
All right, Mike. I'll talk.
Always a pleasure. See you next week, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.